Addressing Congress and the nation after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, George W. Bush said, "They hate our freedoms. Our freedom of religion, our freedom of speech, our freedom to assemble and disagree with each other and vote." In a few days, we'll be chowing down on barbecue and watching fireworks to commemorate Independence Day. Yet for most of us, I guess that our independence from England is the farthest thing from our minds. If we have time, between bites of grilled salmon and swigs of Ninkasi, to contemplate the concept of freedom, we're probably thinking about our constitutional rights, the ones Bush mentioned. Only these freedoms didn't legally exist until 1791, when the first 10 amendments, known as the Bill of Rights, were ratified. So I'm wondering, why don't we have barbecue and watch fireworks and a day off on September 17th, which is Constitution Day? And come to think of it, why didn't we even have an official Constitution Day until 2004? But back to why they hate us, about why the Twin Towers came down and 3,000 people died. In the wake of the Orlando shooting, I've been thinking about the freedoms that really do bring out the hateful, violent nature of fundamentalist extremists. Keeping in mind that Al-Qaeda is the equivalent to Islam as the KKK is to Christianity. Paradoxically, all of the freedoms that came to mind are those that have been long fought for and hard won in the face of obdurate opposition from conservatives like Bush, who are more likely to share bin Laden's and company in his compadres' views on women's rights and homosexuality. In his letter to the American people, bin Laden calls upon us to, and I quote, "reject the immoral acts of fornication, homosexuality, intoxicants, gamblings, and trading with interest." That's right, usury, Ninkasi, and Lotto are right in there with sex and homosexuality, with no distinction made between their importance. And I find it interesting that nowhere in his letter does bin Laden say anything about abortion, although one of his senior leaders described that as infant butchery in the wombs of their heartless, selfless prostitute mothers. What do you expect from a country that lets anybody who wants to wear spandex, right? And referred to homosexuality as alien satanic practices. But the Twin Towers didn't come down because of our progressive social policies. That's an easy conclusion to reach, since many European countries are much more liberal than we are. And bin Laden's letter is proof in itself, because his exhortation to come to Allah and renounce our evil ways doesn't even show up in the first part of his letter, which is about why we fight and oppose you. Nowhere in his letter does he mention freedom of speech or assembly. The only beef he expresses with our constitutional rights is that we're using our votes to elect warmongers. Bush's famous address was actually a very well-written, balanced speech. Obviously, he didn't write it himself. He had 4 speechwriters on staff that acknowledged the peaceable nature of Islam and encouraged all Americans to practice religious tolerance during a very difficult time. He said, "We respect your faith. Its teachings are good and peaceful, and those who commit evil in the name of Allah blaspheme the name of Allah. We're in a fight for our principles, and our first responsibility is to live by them. No one should be singled out for unfair treatment or unkind words because of their ethnic background or religious faith." Of course, very few people remember those parts of his speech. What they remember, what we all remember, are the paraphrased words that the journalists picked up. "They hate us because we are free." In reply to Bush's speech, Osama bin Laden tweeted, "If Bush says we hate freedom, let him tell us why we didn't attack Sweden, for example." Good question.